All right, Jen, I'm going to kick this off. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So, my name is Jay Topper. I'm the Chief Customer Officer at Fabric, and I have a career of retail the last 25 years before coming to Fabric, and I've joined the software platform revolution here over the last 2 or 3 months, and I'm pleased to join a webinar with all the people logging in as I speak. And I want to introduce Jenna Flateman Posner. Did I say that correctly?
You nailed it, dude.
Thank
Congrats.
you. I have practice. Jenna and I share something in common. We're both two-time chief digital officers. Mine was at FTD and Chico's FAS, and Jenna's is at Solo Brands and Snipes. And she's now the founder and CEO of her own digital agency called Chief Digital Agency. And Jenna, welcome. And this is not our first rodeo, is it?
No, it's not. I had the pleasure of joining you on your Chiefly Digital podcast a week or so ago, which was also super fun. So happy to continue to ride that wave with you.
Yeah, and that'll be a fun one. That should launch in the next 2 or 3 weeks. That was fun. I did that from Ireland. It was a blast. So thanks for joining us. Where do you want to start? Talking about retail, OMS, AI, connected commerce. Where do you want to go?
Yeah, no, happy to get us going here. I think, I had the extreme pleasure of getting an inside track on Fabric's product development. And about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I was able to actually take a peek at not only the current order management solution that you guys have in market, but the future roadmap of what that OMS product is really looking like. And I guess maybe we can kind of start off just by hearing from you, Jay, why is Fabric leaning in so hard to OMS right now? And why is that important to you as a business and to the industry?
Yeah, and just for everyone's edification, we actually haven't really practiced this, so but we have spent some time together, so this should easily roll.
Let's wing it.
So
Let's go.
I love first of all, personally, I'm a big fan of order management, and the reason I'm a fan of order management and always have been, it's not a new dynamic for me at Fabric as a retailer at my last several companies. It hit me that when a customer they go through marketing and they get all the exposure, then they go through the store, and at some point they put all that PII information into a cart. They put their credit card in on social or clienteling in a store, online, wherever that happens to be, and they hit buy. And then they get this order confirmation back acknowledging that they've placed this order. And at that point, the real relationship, the solidified forever relationship between customer and retailer kicks in, and the burden shifts greatly to the retailer to fulfill whatever brand promise they're offering that consumer throughout their journey to get to that point in time. And so OMS to me is just the heartbeat of all commerce, and it doesn't matter what it is. It's where customer formally creates that engagement with the retailer. So that's super fascinating to me. You were recently on our demo, and I know we gave a little bit of an insight into AI. Where do you see AI playing out in all of this retail world that we're in, which includes OMS, but is so much more?
Yeah, I mean, I think what was most compelling about what I saw, am I allowed to uncover what I saw? I'm gonna just talk and
I
I'll
think
do
you
the
can
whole
just
like
talk. That's what I'm going to do. I've got a
I'll
few
do the
notes.
whole like ask for forgiveness instead of permission situation.
I
But
think
I
we're
think
both
the
cut out of
the
the same cloth there
yeah,
based on my
nice. Yeah,
experience
not
with you so
surprising.
far.
Not surprising at all. Yeah. So I think what was really exciting to me, kind of laid on top of this foundation, which is very common for most retailers, which is, we're dealing with a lot of legacy systems. And typically those legacy systems historically haven't been built A, to communicate with one another, and B, to get outputs, right? To get data out. And so, order management is one of those systems of record that plays host to our most coveted information, right? It is one of the most complete platforms that we have, and one of the most dependent platforms that we have to actually manage and run our business. And so, what I loved seeing in this OMS demo was the the natural language interface that you guys have layered on top of it. right? And so I think typically what happens as a retail executive, we want to understand order behavior, we want to understand insights, we want to understand correlations between consumers that did X and did Y, and understand the cost of proximity routing and shipping. And there's just, as you're managing a P&L and you're trying to understand opportunity, cost, and egregious scenarios in your systems that signal a problem, it's often very hard to get a lot of this data out. And so, there are teams that are dedicated to creating exports and doing VLOOKUPs and smashing Excel sheets together in order to get some semblance of a view of customer behavior and sales across your entire ecosystem. But what Fabric's been doing, which I think is so fascinating, is actually putting generative experiences on top of OMS. And without having to know SQL, without having to be a developer, I can use natural language and I can communicate with my order management system as an executive. And, you asked questions about AI and where I think it's going. I mean, I think you guys are well ahead. I think this is an incredible advancement that most tech platforms that are playing host to any major sets of data should be thinking about. But what's got me most excited, which is kind of maybe the next step on that, is that is still only as good as the scenarios or insights that I can dream up, the questions that I can dream up, and the manpower that I can put at that interface to actually engage with order management data. The category of AI that's got me most jacked up right now is really agentic AI. The concept of being able to program and task out an AI agent to go complete a task that may have been typically or historically mundane. And I think what that's really going to do for us in this scenario is, if we have tasks within this generative environment that we can task the agent to go do, great, we can do that. But even better, let's take care of all those mundane task-driven things that we're doing today, assign AI agents to it to complete them, and then free our time up to get more creative and have more time to spend in interfaces and solutions like Fabric is building on top of OMS right now. So that's really what's getting me most excited. And I just want to spell this out. I know we've got a few people on the call here, and agentic AI, not everyone has heard this term yet, but the idea here is if you can document a series of steps to complete a task, and you can allow the agent to consume that series of tasks, the agent can behave like a human. It can click, it can go through 2FA, it can log in, it can log out, it can behave exactly like a human. So, think about some of those things that you do in life. You've got your folks that are managing your marketing platforms that have to export a segment out of your CDP and import it into the email environment. And, it's just all of those things in the not too distant future are going to be expedited and managed and handled by AI agents. And so I feel like the use cases are kind of endless. And, in this new role, running this agency, this chief digital agency, getting in the room with brands and having conversations about process deficiencies and how to leverage AI to attack those has been really fun conversations.
You have something in common with me, again, is there's a lot of AI focused early on was on personalization and things that are very customer facing. And now that I work for a platform company, a SaaS company, I look at our order management, and I bring a lot of the retail perspective to this company. And the ability, yes, you need to have good composable modular technology, and yes, it needs to be cloud native, and that's almost becoming table stakes. But I look at it as a series of cohorts. And if I think I was raised, my last three companies, by merchants, maybe raised is the wrong word. My leaders
I don't think
were
it is.
very merchandise focused. And if you have a good product and you put that product at the right place and at the right time and you price it right, that's like the baseline. If marketing and shipping and everything else is great, but if you don't have that product ecosystem, including inventory right, so we focus on three areas at Fabric right now within our AI. And then I have a follow-up question on what you just said
Yeah.
around OMS. Number one is for site merchants and leaders. It's really getting down into inventory accuracy, and our OMS already looks out across the whole ecosystem, stores, DCs, third parties, to ascertain where your inventory is. The worst thing that can happen with inventory, the worst things that can happen is one is you have way too much product in one place and one store, using as that as an example, and you're not going to sell through it. So you either have to sell it off, or you have to ship it back to the DC, every single thing hitting basis points of margin. And the other even worse scenario in my estimation is a customer wants something at a point of intent and they can't get it because it's not there. And so the ability to forecast and predict where inventory should be, based that all the way down to the SKU level and across 1,000 or more locations, becomes table stakes. And the more inputs that you can put into that, the more accurate you can become. And it's not meant to replace an allocation or a buying engine, but it's certainly in an operational, with our Copilot, we're very focused on the end users and companies. The ability to actually get reads on that and the performance of that inventory down to the location and SKU level is super critical. And then the second one I'll bring up here is the concept of product. And we have also a very robust product catalog where you can bring products in from many different sources, standardize it, enrich the data, and then publish it out to multiple different scenarios. And the ability to understand the performance of those products at the margin level, at the revenue level, and again, based on one or more properties of where you're selling that, whether that's social, store, web, and being able to predict what you should be promoting and where the best value is to site merchant a site, for example. There's a ton of power within our application now and more coming that will help give recommendations. And eventually, if you trust AI, of course, you can then allow AI to take over. But there's certainly a mix of that early on as these algorithms get smarter and smarter. You brought up something in our podcast, which isn't out yet, but will be, that I thought was a great example of AI and OMS, and it ties into your view of agentic AI, and that's of a bot or an agent taking care of something with regards to the order, changing an order or something like that. Give that example because I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. So right now, obviously consumers have lots of demands, and in many cases, they put in customer service requests to modify their orders. And retailers really have two options today. They can either pay, six figures and spend a year or two integrating their order management system into their service consoles and allowing their customer service agents to request these order modifications through their service consoles. Or worse, they've got customer service reps getting access to modify orders in one of the most coveted systems of record in the organization, which is the order management system. And so, I don't love either of those of those two things. I guess the third would be to buy an e-com platform that has an order management system, but that's a conversation for another day. But what agentic AI can do, which is very interesting, is, and I'll kind of walk through the scenario, right? It's 1 a.m. No, I'm not shopping at 1 a.m. Let's say it's after business hours. I placed an order and I realized, oh man, I sent it to the wrong address. So I place a ticket with customer service and I request my address to be changed. Well, what's happening today is customer service reps are coming in. They're getting their open tickets in, timing order, right? So they're going to get the oldest first, and they're going to be working through those until they get to the most recent request from the consumer. Half the time that the customer service rep gets through these tickets, by the time they get to the ticket for the order modification request, the item's already been shipped. And so there's a lot of implication here. One is the customer's going to be pissed because now they got to wait longer because you got to do a return to sender and you got to get the package back. It's bad for the brand because you got to pay for shipping again and you got to put it back in and get it back into inventory. You're also tying up that inventory during that time window, so you're not able to sell it. For all sorts of reasons, this is a bad scenario. But if you had agentic AI deployed in this scenario, an AI agent that at 1 a.m. could pick up this ticket, physically go into order management on behalf of the agent, of the actual customer service agent, follow a task list of log in, input order in this field, click look up order, select modify, select change address, put in new address, right? You can train these agents to do these very simple step-by-step paint by number requests where at 1 a.m, when everybody was sleeping, this ticket would have been opened and closed and managed appropriately. And so there's a huge opportunity to start leveraging agents in that way to help not just make sure that these customer service reps are freed up to handle the tickets that require creative thought or problem solving or empathy or, a direct connection with the consumer, but also to save a lot of money for the brand, right? Logistically, just like, creating some serious efficiencies there. Jay, there's something I heard you say about order management and about allocation that I thought was really interesting. And, one thing I want to call out is that when we're dealing with, inventory that is not in the right place at the right time, order management is kind of set up to handle those mistakes, right? And so you have things like proximity routing that are typically like, stage-based or rules-based, right? That say like, if this, then that, right? And you're kind of trying to find your best outcome within the current configuration of the inventory. And that's always reactive to where the inventory lives. I think what you guys are doing on the OMS side, which is so compelling, is that you're taking a proactive approach to say, hey, we have all of this data. Not only do we have the data of where the inventory is now, we have all of this e-commerce data and regionalized data as well that we can leverage to understand where are pockets of consumers and how can that help inform where we actually put our inventory. There's also an opportunity to be looking at total sell-through from a volume and velocity standpoint to say, we know the pace at which this product is selling in these specific markets or locations. And so it's a great way to trigger back to allocations and planning and say, whoa, we're under inventory. Like we got to move things around. And so I think you guys are thinking about it the right way. I think leveraging AI to make some of those calls is also really, really amazing. And I think it's going to have a really big impact on the industry.
Yeah, the other place that excites me, which you just rubbed right up against, is the concept of order routing. And in companies I've worked for, who owns the order routing? Sometimes that's supply chain, sometimes it's an omni-channel team, and it's a little bit of a gray area. But once that order is placed, how do I best fulfill it? And you have basic algorithms that you can say, hey, I want to fulfill it 100% out of the DC first. And then after that, I want to go to a store and I want to 100% fulfill it from a store second. And then here's my third. But we can also, and we are layering AI into those decision-making algorithms to not just look at the most optimum of where that inventory is, but also look at things like labor in stores, look at third-party inventory availability, look at weather patterns, look at shipping costs. Of course, the avoidance of split shipments in retail is table stakes. So more and more inputs to come into intelligent order routing, which not only makes the customer happy, but also zones in on some of that cost management inside of a company, because every 10 basis points of margin is huge. So the cost to serve, both in customer service, fulfillment and distribution, shipping, is huge. And if you're doing 10 million orders a year, 10 cents is $1 million. And so it starts to really rack and stack when we look at it that. And that is the way I look at it. I've been a fan of order economics my whole life. And you break down the cost of that order to serve, and you start putting AI in at the microscopic places that save you pennies on the order. It doesn't take long for those pennies to add up to millions of dollars. And if you look at it like that, instead of trying to boil the ocean up top, but really come from the bottoms up, I think that's a winning, and that's what companies do when they look at operational excellence. So I just got a heads up. So I'm going to ask you one more question, but first, if anybody has any questions, we have a Q&A button somewhere at the bottom there. It says actually Q&A and has a question mark. You can type in any questions you have there and we'll get to them, because I think we only have about 3 minutes left. So I'm going to close with a more open question to you. And we both understand the order and order management and inventory and all the customer service applications around that order, which is cool. Give me another technology. You had mentioned a technology when we met 1 or 2 times ago that you're involved with that I thought was really interesting. And So maybe
Yeah.
popping out of the OMS box here for a second, but still impacts retail. What was that?
Yeah, there are a few that are kind of cranking right now. The one I think you're referencing is a company called Pixera. And the beauty of Pixera is that they have I don't know, thousands, like 10,000 um AI agents that have been built that are ready to be deployed essentially. And those agents, my gosh, I've seen use cases, everything from supporting tech onboarding, right? So like technologists have to onboard their clients, and those are paint by number, step by step, documented tasks to get customer accounts ready and credentials created, right? I've seen that as a use case. I've seen image asset editing, right? So knocking out backgrounds. I've seen changing colorways, creating massive efficiencies on the brand's need to actually shoot product, right? Being able to shoot a white shoe instead of the, eight other colorways that come with it, because the AI agent can actually do the editing to save on the, editing and creation of the four or five other colorways. I mean, really, again, the use cases are endless, but yeah, Pixera is one of them. There's some really interesting things happening. I like to talk about Session AI a lot from a promo management and mitigation standpoint. I think that's an unbelievable AI solution that is not too hard to implement and easy to drive some big impact. And then another one I've seen recently is a company called AdeptMind, which is doing long form content creation and SEO optimization. They've done some really interesting things as well. But I think as far as the future of AI really goes, Jay, and this is going to seem a little polarizing. I remember a million years ago when I was selling mobile payment before mobile payment was a thing. I would talk to retailers and I would say, there will be a day when we don't have cash in our wallet. And they would all chuckle and they would say, oh, ha ha, well, how could we ever not have cash in our wallets? Um, well, I believe that we are embarking on the age where we are going to challenge the entire hierarchy of the way that we look at websites today, how consumers engage. I think that we're going to challenge the browser. I think we're going to challenge the search engine. I think our devices are going to be a lot more AI led and a lot more assistant driven. And I think over the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see a massive evolution. And so for the brands that are not accepting this reality, that are, oh no, AI is not going to change the way we engage with consumers, and it's not going to challenge our websites, they're going to be left in the dust. So, for all of you brands listening today, please lean in, get educated, join the Retail AI Council, and figure out how to stay on top of all of this.
I have a couple of questions, one for me, one for you. I'll answer mine and ask you yours.
Sure.
And we'll see if we get any more, and we'll respond to all the questions via other means if we don't get to them. So Philip asked, and Philip said to say hello to you, Jenna. But I still
Yep.
think it's a question for me. How do you see the unification of commerce and OMS onto the same platform, and is that an advantage? Look, we sell an entire commerce platform, and and our individual flagship products are OMS product catalog, which is a PIM light and dropship. The answer to your question is no. I think the one inherent advantage is if you were to buy multiple products from the same company is that they're already connected. However, that should not be a big litmus test. What you need to do is look at these. The whole beauty of Compose is to be able to look at these functions and these platforms as best of breed, and they should be so incredibly technologically open and integrated, either already integrated or easily integrated, that you can stick, for example, our OMS any e-commerce platform, and some have been pre-built, some haven't, but it's open in the abilities to do there. So yes, there are some advantages certainly to some of these connections that take place. So you can look at that and exploit that, especially depending on how much the implementation certainly comes down. But you should really look at each one of the capabilities and separately. And if there's AI that traverses or intelligence that traverses between these modules, should be a consideration. Katie asked a question. I'm going to give it to you. Is if you're going down the AI journey right now, what would you tell a retailer to beware of when you're starting to spin up AI capabilities that are springing up all over the market today?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's pretty meaty. A lot of dependencies there on the current culture within your organization, right? So is your organization forward looking, or is this something that you're kind of pulling into the business? One recommendation I've always made and will continue to make when trying to establish an AI practice in an organization is take a look at your existing stack first. Make sure you get educated on the current AI use cases that your technology partners they've already brought it to market through your tech stack. There are things like if you're using a decision engine for fraud, you're using AI, right? If you're using optimized send times for email or for SMS, you're using AI. So I would say first and foremost, get spun up on the current technology that you're using and those AI use cases and get some measurement out of them so you can take them to your executive leadership. Once you do that and you say, look, we're already using AI, right? Here's the value of AI.
Right.
It really demystifies the entire thing. And it allows you to establish a sense of trust and value within the organization that gives you permission to test and learn. I would say the next step in that, I know we don't have a ton of time, but the next step is take a look at some of the more mundane tasks that you can operationalize today. One of the big ones that I've seen work really well, this whole process is not mundane, but there are pieces that are, is your product enablement process online, right? From the time your product hits the dock to the time it goes online, it's a time period, right? It could be, for some, I've seen it as fast as 12 hours. Some I've seen it as long as 3 weeks. But if you can
Yeah.
actually document that and show how AI can shorten the window for time from time to hitting the dock to time to live, your path to cash is faster, and it's going to really help you justify putting AI use cases within that much bigger, broader process. And that includes, inventory. It includes product enrichment, copywriting, attributing, categorization, all of the steps it takes in order to get a product live online. So I would just say focus there first. Customer service is a good one. And then I think once you've really established that trust in the organization, then you can start having some fun. Over the past year, all of us have been kind of like preaching this call for tech. We've been saying, okay, cool. AI has been democratized. We can all play with OpenAI and ChatGPT, and that's really great. But technologists, we need you to build on top of this now so we can have some use cases that we can trust and put in market. It's here. So do your research, talk to your friends. There's lots of case studies out there. All of them are willing to pilot because a lot of these are actually variable contracts that are based on utilization. So if you start small, pay small, and grow these contracts bigger over time as you justify the expense, everybody kind of wins. So I don't know if that answers your question,
Yeah.
but
No,
that's
I think that was a great answer. Hopefully Katie thinks so too. We have actually 3 or 4 more that we're going to have to get back to via LinkedIn or email. I think the thing that when you said shrinking that, like when it shows up into your DC and then gets onto your site, I even again as it from a merchant's eyes popping up above that as that as a subset of from the time you're starting to think about what product you want to sell, if you're vertically integrated, designing that and the iterations of that, ordering it, having it ship, like the whole product life cycle from concept to the ability to sell. If every day you shrink
yep.
on that life cycle is basis points and basis points, the closer you can get to customer trends and what's actually going to they actually want to buy, the more successful you're going to be.
I mean, there are massive Abercrombie right now is leveraging historic sell-through rates in order to actually predict styles and
That's
build
right.
product. And
That's
it's
right.
using AI to actually create new product based on
That's
all
right.
the
That's
historic data
exactly
that
right.
they have. There are massive brands out there leveraging customer reviews and, client CS transcripts to kind of pull that in and look for product defects and deficiencies. Like
Yep.
it's just again, the use cases are kind of endless, but you've
No,
got
they
to
are
find the right
endless.
partners to help you operationalize these use cases. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Jay.
All right, Jenna, thank you.